The world is a big, scary, confusing place. We have lots of decisions to make all the time, and if we're self-respecting to any degree, we want to make the right decision. Do I eat the salad or the burger? Do I vote for candidate A or candidate B? Do I go to work or call in sick? Do I go to the gym or get some much-needed sleep? Or, binge watch just one more episode? Do I buy the moderately priced widget with the 7.5-inch 1080p display, Wi-Fi, and Bluetooth, but no stylus or FM radio, which of course you'll never use? Or do I buy the widget that costs twice as much but has a 7.8-inch 1440p display that includes a stylus, which you'll lose after the first week and won't pay $49.99 for a replacement, and also it has that beloved FM radio that, again, you'll never use? To help us make these difficult decisions, we rely on our knowledge, our emotions, and our intuitions. Such knowledge can be derived from the testimony of experts. For example, in what future year climate scientists predict that your very much not oceanfront property will become one. Or alternatively, we can derive such knowledge from our experiences. I've already rambled about the trickiness of trusting our own experiences over those of others to tell us the truth about reality. This time I want to approach experience from a more fundamental perspective. In Zen meditation, the experience of enlightenment is not spoken to others because words cannot accurately describe it. Such descriptions can only encourage seeking and conceptualization, but conceptualization is not experience, and seeking defeats the process. Experience, not story, is the only medium through which enlightenment can be practically integrated. And no matter how life-changing your experiences are to you, to me they are just stories. But what about the stories I tell myself about my own experiences? Those are stories just the same, and they are subject to the same losses in translation even when my story is only read by me. When I burn my hand on a hot stove, my experience is one of sudden pain, reflex, and fear, but my story is about my scatterbrained dad forgetting that he was preparing tea and he's not to be trusted in the kitchen. Introspecting about an experience is generally necessary to gain a deeper understanding from it, but it is not the same as the experience itself. The stories we tell ourselves about an experience help us to answer the question, what happened? And we further translate those stories into narratives when we try to answer the question, what will happen in future scenarios? But the stories and narratives generated to answer these questions are just simulations. They are not object truth. The only truth is the direct experience itself. If I experience a driver cutting me off in traffic, my story might be that people around here don't know how to drive, in this city, or in the rain, or in the snow, or at night, or whatever. If I experience rejection in a job interview, my story might be that the interviewers didn't like my appearance, or my accent, or my personality, or my bright green shoes, or something like that. If I experience a muted response from a partner when I share a hilarious meme, my story might be that they're just mad at me for not taking the trash out immediately upon returning home from work yesterday, or maybe because I'm wearing that shirt that they really don't like, but who really knows why they're so grumpy all the time. If it was unusually cold for a week this April and it snowed, my narrative might be that climate change is a hoax, but my experience is just a little bit of chilly weather. Conversely, if a thunderstorm brings down a bunch of trees in my neighborhood late in the year when we would be expecting low temperatures and mild weather, my narrative might be one about extreme weather being amplified by a rapidly warming planet. But my experience is just of a thunderstorm. Now, this discussion isn't about climate change, I promise. So when we fail to differentiate between experience and story, we risk treating the story as the thing that happened. It didn't. Your experience is not your story, and your story, because it didn't happen, is not data. When data is available, I generally recommend trusting it over our stories. Now, I'll risk invalidating my claim that this discussion really isn't about climate change, but it's such a good example. Our stories about changes, or lack of, in our planet's climate, when based on experience, are a poor substitute for long-term trends that can be seen in data. First, we typically only experience weather in one tiny geographic location, where we live. Any other weather across the world we'll generally only hear about secondhand, through story. Additionally, weather can be quite variable from day to day, from season to season, from year to year. While long-term trends can be handily captured in meteorological datasets, they are not well captured within our own memories, which are prone to all sorts of biases. You can pick your favorite bias from among recency, novelty, negativity, confirmation, hindsight bias, or all of them if you're really enthusiastic. Now, whether or not climate change exists, the magnitude and cause of the effect, and what, if anything, we should do about it, are all very valid conversation points that I absolutely will not be expounding upon further here. But I will most certainly claim that using our own direct experiences, and especially the stories derived from them, to make objective determinations about climate trends is factually inaccurate, regardless of where you stand on the issue. That said, stories and narratives are not worthless. In many cases, sufficient data is not available to inform good decision-making, or a decision must be made more quickly than the data can be gathered, analyzed, and interpreted. In some cases, we may desire the emotional impact of story or narrative over the impersonal and inert nature of raw data. The message here is a warning about over-reliance on story and narrative, even though they're useful, simply because this is an easier trap to fall into in our modern, polarized, and information-rich society. Everyone has a story to tell you, grounded in their own undeniable experiences, or, actually stories, of what should be. More often, we are better served by the message to distance ourselves from our stories. Even better is to refrain from translating experience into story at all, and just let it be as is. Just an experience. See mindfulness. Of course, this is easier said than done. And again, the objective is not to dogmatically favor experience over story or vice versa, but rather to understand that the two are different. Translating our experiences into stories and narratives helps us make sense of the world in which we must perform and make decisions in order to survive. We can often use stories to inspire others, and ourselves, much more effectively than using data alone. Narrative can provide us with purpose and continuity. Like many other tools in our toolbox, the decision to see the world through story and narrative should be one made with intent rather than unconscious reaction, to realize when these tools help our decision-making and when they hinder them. Story is an abstraction that helps you make sense of your lived experience, but your story is not your experience.